right, I got a little special treat for you today. This one is going to be my wiggle damsel. And this is a fly I came up with a long time ago. And honestly was fairly off the wall back in the day because it was articulated. And the idea ultimately was to make a damselfly nymph that would swim more like a real damselfly. And this is what I came up with. And it's a super simple fly. It's been around a long time, still works. I still have people ask for it, and guys that know about it, they know about it. So I'm going to let you know about it. So I'm going to start off with a ring-eyed dry fly hook, standard length dry fly hook, but ring eye is going to be important here. And we're going to ultimately end up cutting the bend of this hook off. So this doesn't have to be a quality hook. This could be a cheap Chinese hook, which invariably you have probably some of those laying around that you learned your lesson the hard way about, but this is a good place to put those to use. Now, this one that I'm tying here is I'm going to tie, I think this is a 14. So I'm going to start with some olive done A-dot thread. And I only say olive done because I'm going to tie a little bit darker olive version. I try to match the thread and the marabou to each other. But I'm going to start this thread just up here behind the eye. I'm going to make a nice even thread base all the way back to the bend. And I usually stop just a little short of, the bend proper, just because I know I'm going to cut that off. So now I'm going to take a marabou feather, and I want one with long flumes like this. And I'm going to take a nice clump of marabou and peel it off the stem, and then bundle it up like so, and get all the way down to the end. And you can see the ends will almost always be ragged like that. I'll just tear those off, so I've got a short little tuft like so. And this is going to be maybe half a shank long, maybe slightly shorter than half a shank. I'm going to tie this in here at the bend of the hook with 3 or 4 stacked turns of thread. Then I'm going to lift those butt ends up, and I'll bring my thread back up to the hook eye. And I'm going to start to wrap this marabou. And damsel nymphs are really skinny, so don't build it up. Just wrap. And then I'll tie that off just behind the eye. Trim those stub ends out, and then if you wet your fingers a bit, you can see there's some fluff that sticks out over the hook eye. Clean that back out of the way and build a little thread head. And then we'll whip finish that. You can put a little head cement on there if you're so inclined. I'm not. So now I'm going to set that aside for a minute, and into my vise I'm going to put Tiemco 3761 or 69. I've used those two interchangeably. 69 is a shorter shank hook. 61 is a 1x long. 3769 is a standard shank. And either one works just depending on the size of your damsels. And I'm going to start my thread here on this one just right up behind the eye. Same thread. And run all the way back to the bend. Nice even thread base. And then back up again to about 80%. Now I'm going to take some black bead chain in extra small. Let's see if that's extra small. Yep, extra small black bead chain. And I've just cut off 2 of them, 2 of these little beads. And I'm going to tie this in here about 2 eye lengths back from the hook eye. And I'll go 3 or 4 turns one way and then sort of prop them in position and go 3 or 4 turns the other way. You can kind of go back and forth. Now the bead chain eyes are for a reason. I want to add a little weight to this fly. It also helps with the swing on the articulation. You can do this with melted mono eyes or plastic eyes. You absolutely can. But I like the bead chain eyes. And you can absolutely use plain gold ones. If you've got gold ones, I mean, the first 50 million of these I tied, I did with plain gold eyes, which honestly is probably closer to the color of real damsel eyes anyway. So now I'm going to take a piece of 3X Tippet material, and I'll show you, I do this a little different when I'm tying a bunch of these, but I'll show you a trick if you're just doing a few, is just take your mono and tie it in from just behind the eyes and wrap over it all the way back to the bend. So you got your mono hanging out there, and then take your first portion and thread the tippet in there and make your loop. Okay, and a lot of times I'll just put a turn or two of thread over there to kind of gauge the size of this loop. It doesn't have to be very long. We just want enough for this to swing, and then I'll anchor it down and come forward again. Now we are going to cut that second hook off, so I don't really go to any great pains to make this an extra tough connection. I do often use fluorocarbon for that joint just because it's more durable. And you're using a 1/2 inch of it at a time, but that's the truth of the matter, is that that joint's really not going to get pulled on because there's not going to be a hook in this back end. So now I'm going to take another clump of that same marabou and basically do the same thing we just did. I'm going to sort of bunch it up. Got a couple of loose ends here. Bunch it up, tear those ends off, so I've just got a short little tuft. And I'm going to tie this in right here at the bend. And I want that tuft to run back into the front of the second hook. Get that anchored down with a couple turns. Lift all these butt ends up. Bring my thread forward all the way up to the hook eye. And I'm going to start wrapping this marabou. And you can see this, you're not going to get a lot of turns. 3 or 4 turns up to the hook eye, and tie it off right behind the hook eye. Then I'm going to jump my thread behind the eyes, fold all that marabou back again, and form the head. And then I'll whip finish right there in that band behind the eyes. Nip your thread out, and then I pull that marabou forward again, and I'm going to trim it just about even with the hook eye. And that's going to sort of form our wing case on the thorax. And I like that it's a little ragged. See how it's ragged? When you cut marabou, you don't always get it all clean cut. That's the whole idea there. And then I'll take my clippers here, pop this out of the vise, and just come in and nip the bend of that hook off right up flush. Put him back up here where you can see him. Like so. But we've got our little articulated damsel that swims, and there's been lots of sort of I won't even say new versions, but variations on this theme, articulated damsels, over the years. But this is an awfully simple one, not very hard to tie, breathes really nice, got some movement to it. Pretty crafty little bug. One material, some bead chain eyes and some marabou. She didn't really bang these out. This was back in my commercial tying days, and I sold an awful lot of these. I don't know that I've ever given this one to Umpqua. That makes me think maybe I should. But at any rate, that's Charlie's Wiggle Damsel. I hope you like that. Go take that and throw that in a lake somewhere. You might catch a trout, maybe 2. I hope you do. All right, you guys have a good day. Thanks for watching as always. I'll be back soon.